Hi there from the Costa del Sol, great to see you. So today's video is about the pros and cons of living in Spain based on my experience since I moved here earlier this year. Now, before that, I would first of all like to say a massive thank you to all of you who have subscribed to my channel in the past few days. Thank you so much, it means a lot, it really does. So the other thing I want to just say before we move on is about my last video, which was about issues I've encountered during my move here to Spain. I want to say first of all is that I am actually very happy here, and some things have actually gone very well for me. I mean, even with some issues, look, I'm in paradise. I'm very happy. But it doesn't matter how much research you do, at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. And yes, I've had some issues, but then again, I think everybody's going to encounter some issues. So I've been thinking, and it's occurred to me that, as I say, many things have gone right for me. And it's just as important to let you know about the things that have gone well, as well as the things that have gone badly, because you can also learn from the things that have gone well, on the basis that potentially if you were to do the same things, then hopefully the outcome will be positive also. So I'm going to be also doing very shortly a video about my immigration path coming here and the things that have actually worked well for me. Okay, that's not today's video, that's going to be in the next week or two. Today's video is about the pros and cons, and trust me, there are more pros than cons. Okay, so thanks for watching, and on with the pros and cons. Okay, so the first pro has to be the weather. Come here for the beautiful all year round weather. Is it 320 days of the year? It's sunny. About 45 where it's not, but 320, wow. Compared to England, that's fantastic. And of course it gives you big health benefits. You're out more, you're exercising, the heat is good for you, less aches and pains, and all the rest of it. No doubt about it, the weather is a big pro. 320 days of the year, sunshine, wow. However, we've still got to talk about the weather a little bit. Well, I'm British. So let me just tell you about what the weather was like when I first came here in January. January and February were wonderful. It was sunny every day, and it was warm, about what, 16, 17, even 18, 19, 20 degrees. It was wonderful. I sat out most afternoons for a couple of hours in the sun, enjoyed it, fantastic. And the evenings, now the evenings, it did get chilly. Of course, it's winter. You had to go out, you had to put a jacket on. That was fine, no problem at all. In the house, obviously in the night time, I did need some heating. Now, I have heard people say to me, people who have actually lived in Spain or stayed in Spain and Portugal, who have told me, oh, you need to be a bit careful in the evenings, it does get chilly, even possibly colder than England, which I found hard to believe. But what they were talking about really is the temperature in the house at night, because you've got to remember, the Spanish houses do not generally have central heating. So compared to the houses in England, in winter, the houses tend to be colder here in Spain, or certain parts of Spain and Portugal, than they are in England. And even going out to bars and restaurants, they don't have heating generally. I was also watching a blog by a personality. I wasn't going to give his name, but it was Michael Barrymore. Before I came here, I was doing my research, watching videos, and he moved to Spain, and he moved to Barcelona. And the reason he was moving was because he was cold in England, and he moved to Barcelona in December, and he only stayed a month. He said he was colder there in Barcelona than he was in England. Now, I presume his house wasn't very well heated, but there you go, another example. Now, my experience here was, I was fine. I bought myself a little oil radiator, and that did me. I was fine, I was well warm. So this is perhaps one of the warmer places in Spain on the Costa del Sol. Madrid tends to be very, very hot in the summer, hotter than here, and cooler in winter. So I think here on the Costa is pretty reasonable both in winter and the summer. Okay, and then we came to March, and what happened in March? It rained. It didn't just rain, it tipped it down for about 4, 5, 6 weeks consecutively. I hardly went out at all. Now, to put this into context, for the previous 2 or 3 years, they had no rain here at all, and they were in a severe drought situation. So that rain was very, very welcome indeed. Now, I do have to say I didn't appreciate it that much at the time because, as I say, I hardly went out for about 6 weeks. So that was from the beginning of March, and it went right the way through to virtually Easter, right the way through to the middle of April. And then we had some wonderful weather again. But what AEMET are saying, now AEMET are the Spanish weather organisation, they're saying that with climate change, it's particularly going to affect the Mediterranean. And what they are predicting, or have been predicting, and it's basically come true, is that they are saying that it's going to be more extreme drought and more extreme deluge of rain, which is precisely what we've had here on the Costa, or they've had, because I wasn't here for all of it, for the past 3 years. A couple of years of drought, and then March, April, big downpours. And the other thing they're saying is that traditionally the rain has typically come here in October and November. But with climate change, they were predicting that it's going to start switching from October, November into the following March and April. So there you go, just bear that in mind, particularly if you're booking Easter breaks here, particularly if Easter comes early. Yeah, so that's the weather. I mean, look at it, it's wonderful now, absolutely wonderful. Okay, next up, let's talk about cheaper living expenses. Another big pro, another good reason to come and live here in Spain. Food is cheaper. I've already done a video about the food, and I think my calculations based on my shopping basket was that the food basket here is about 25% cheaper than back in England. But having said that, the prices are going up here. They are, as they are in England, as they are everywhere. But nonetheless, it's still cheaper here than England. And what else is cheaper? Well, electricity. One, you don't use as much because you're not using it for central heating, apart from maybe a month or two of the year, January, February. You may use it possibly for some aircon, maybe July and August. Well, that's maybe 3 or 4 months of the year where you've got something running, perhaps. But I do believe that the unit price of electricity is cheaper here also. So it should be a sizable saving. I don't have a figure for it yet. Maybe when I do my sums at the end of the year, I'll do a comparison between here and in England. But the electricity and gas, I don't have any gas, it's all electric anyway. But your electricity or gas bills here should be a lot cheaper than England. The one thing I've just done is taken out my car insurance here, because I'm importing my car, so I've had to transfer my English insurance to Spanish. And for me, anyway, I do believe it is cheaper here, but for me, it was about half the price. And on top of that, a big bonus, and it's quite common with insurance policies here, is that recovery, roadside recovery, is included with the insurance. How about that? So insurance and recovery, 50% cheaper than what I was paying in England. That's cool. Community charges. I live in a gated community and I am paying about £50 a month. Whereas in England, I don't know what it was. My council tax bill, it was more than double that. So again, 50% savings on my community charges. On the other side of the coin, there's a couple of things we do need to talk about. If you do want to come here and work, I don't know what visa you'll be using for that, because certainly the digital nomad visa or the non-lucrative visa, you can't work here on either of those. But if you were coming in here to work, then you've got to factor in that the wages here are pretty low compared to England. The other thing is taxes. Taxes are pretty high in Spain, higher than England, believe it or not. So you've got to factor that in as well. But they are more than offset by the other savings that we just spoke about, cost of food, electricity and other things. So you've got to weigh the two things up together, and if you put them together, it's still a big pro. Still a good saving there. You are better off, no question about it. But if you're not paying taxes, if you're not earning here, if you're living off your savings, if you're on the non-lucrative visa and you're just living off passive income, you've got no tax to pay, well, you're on a winner. So let's talk a bit about property, shall we? So the property here in Spain is without doubt far, far cheaper than the UK. Though it does have to be said that the property prices here are going up quite quickly compared to what they were, say, several years ago. And there's still plenty of good bargains to be found along the costa. Although the further west you go, the cheaper they tend to get. I've come to Manilva, and I would say that is currently the cheapest place to be. I've been told by a few estate agents that they think Manilva is going to be the next big thing. It's kind of moved down the coast, away from the airport, away from Malaga. Estepona was the last one, but that's pretty much maxed out now. Manilva's next in line. And in terms of an investment, I'm told that Manilva is going to be the next big thing, and that's the place to buy. Let's just mention this property tax, which has got a lot of publicity recently. The 100% tax. First of all, it's highly, highly unlikely ever going to take effect. It's not been passed, it's unlikely to be passed, but even if it is, let's be clear, it's only going to apply if you are buying a property as a second home, something to either rent out or something that you're only going to occupy when you're here for maybe a few weeks or a few months of the year, which means it's going to be left empty for most of the year. That is what they're trying to avoid. They've got a housing crisis. They don't want empty properties. And to be perfectly frank, that is what the anti-tourism protests are all about. It's not against tourists. They're not against tourists at all, I promise you. In fact, the Spanish Tourist Board is doing all it can to encourage tourists to come here. They want tourists. They need tourists. But what they don't want is property being rented out for only a few weeks or a few months of the year, and for it to be sat empty for the bulk of the year, because that is what is pushing up house prices. So if they can sort that out, house prices will actually drop and make them more affordable for everybody. So what about the language? Difficult to make a case out for a pro. I suppose unless you learn the language and you become fluent in Spanish, then that's a big plus, isn't it? But other than that, I think you've really got to be careful where you move to. Now, this is in the port of Duquesa, where I am now. And here, I can honestly say, you don't need to know a word of Spanish. Everybody speaks English. This is the most westerly port from Malaga. And yeah, it's an international port. Everybody speaks English. However, if I was to sort of head 15 minutes towards Sabinillas, then you would find they speak mainly Spanish, although I must say, I think you would get by speaking English nonetheless. However, if I was to head up into the hills to the town of Manilva, some very nice cheap property up there, then you would find they wouldn't speak a word of English at all, totally Spanish. A very sleepy, quiet Spanish town. Now, I have spoken to some people in the port here who have told me that they moved here and they couldn't speak a word of Spanish, but they moved here because English was spoken. But then while they were here, they've then learnt Spanish, become fluent, and now they are looking to move away. So maybe that's a way to do it. For myself, that's pretty much what I'm doing. I can't really speak much Spanish yet, but I am trying to learn. So maybe one day, who knows, I may be fluent, and then maybe I'll want to move away somewhere that's just Spanish speaking, who knows. That's for the future. So how about the slower pace of life? Isn't this why you come to Spain? Everything's much slower, they take things easy, they don't rush. It takes a long time to get things done, but that's the Spanish way. It's a bit like going back 20 years, isn't it, in England? Back to how it was 20 years ago. We're about 20 years behind, in a way. And yeah, it's kind of what you come here for, to slow life down a bit. But I think also you've got to talk a bit about the bureaucracy as well. So the pro is the slowness, taking it easy, but bureaucracy is also sort of creeps into this as well, because bureaucracy is so slow here. So that kind of comes with it. It's kind of a double-edged sword. And it's not just sort of immigration. When we talk about bureaucracy, we tend to talk about the bureaucracy of doing the immigration and all the forms and how long it takes, and I've already covered that. But it's everything. For example, I'm importing my car, so I need to get it MOT'd. So I'm sort of in English mode, thinking, right, I'll just book it in, I'll get it done next week, etc. But then I found out the process for getting the MOT. Well, it's called an ITV here, but you can't get it done like next week. It takes several weeks or even possibly months to get it booked in. It's that far ahead. But I have been told, however, that the police are very relaxed here about it. They know how long it takes to get things done. So if your ITV does run out, they're not going to jump on you if it's just like a few weeks over. So I'm told anyway. Don't take my word for it. Try and get your car ITV'd. But I've been told they are a bit relaxed. So the slowness of life, it extends to things like the shops and the siestas. I'm not sure people do actually have a siesta, but nonetheless, certainly the shops, or most of the shops, do close from about 2 p.m. to about 5 p.m. And then they're open again to maybe 7 p.m. So people do work sort of longer days, but the number of working hours is probably about the same because they have a long lunch. And they do like their sort of lunch times. They have good meals, they have long meals, and that's kind of built into them. So they do slow things down in the sort of afternoon period between 2 till 5, which is probably the hottest part of the day, certainly in the summer. And on that subject of slowing things down in the summer, I find that in July, most businesses are on reduced hours. And then August these days, pretty much everything shuts down. Schools are off for a couple of months. Businesses kind of shut down pretty much totally in August now, apparently. It's, it gets pretty hot here in August, and it shuts down. That's it. Nice and slow. So let's have another good pro, and it's the low crime rate. There's very little crime here compared to England, and they're very family orientated. They put family first. They have quality time for family. Kids do tend to be able to play out on the street, a bit like, as we were saying before, going back in time in England. It's like taking a step back. They do have a better life balance, and they say they do prioritise their family life. But they do work long hours, as I say, but they have the gap in the middle. So they actually work longer hours in the day. They maybe start at 9 and then finish at 7. And they don't have their evening meal until maybe 9 or even 10 or possibly even later, maybe 11 p.m. They have their sort of late meal of the day, which may just be tapas, and they may have their sort of main meal in the afternoon and then maybe a smaller meal sort of late in the evening. It's a different way of life, and it's what you come here for. No good coming to Spain if you're not willing to adapt a new way of life and fit in with the way they work. Okay, so let's finish up with a good pro, shall we? How about the public transport system? Now, I'm talking about the trains, the fast trains, the intercity trains. They run across the country, city to city, and they are super fast, super efficient, and super cheap. They put our rail system to shame, apparently. I've not tried them yet, but I will do one day. And I guess that will be another video which I will do for you. Down here in the Costa del Sol, it does feel a little bit lacking, because all we really have is one bus. Well, I hope it's lots of buses actually. They just run up and down the A7. There's no trains that come down here. I think the nearest train station is Fuengirola. So all we've really got is just the buses up and down the A7. They don't go up into the urbanisations like English buses go into the estates. So again, I will try it one day and I'll let you know how good it is. In fact, it might be sooner rather than later. My car is actually off the road again. I am importing the car. That will hopefully be complete in maybe 5 or 6 weeks' time. So I might do a video on the process I've done for that, and hopefully the car will be back on the road soon. Lots of good things, lots of pros. You got the good weather, you got the cheap living expenses, the slow way of life, the good public transport system, etc., etc. Anyway, as I always say, well, I do say sometimes, Hakuna Matata, it means no worries. And thank you again to everybody who has subscribed to the channel. I really do appreciate it. So, Hakuna Matata, see you next time. Take care. Bye for now.